Okay, I just got to wait for Instagram to pick it up. Here we go. Awesome. All right. All right. Cool. So I'm going to do a proper introduction later. We'll put, music behind it and sponsors and all that stuff. So we'll just jump right in. Today, my guest is Nick Harris with eXp, with Best Life and Company, Metro Detroit. Let me tell you more about Nick. Now, Nick Harris is a licensed realtor based in the Metro Detroit, Michigan area with a passion for real estate that dates back to his college years. What began as a self-taught exploration of real estate investing quickly turned into a thriving career. After starting his journey at United Wholesale Mortgage, Nick knew he was ready to make the leap to become a full-time realtor with just I'm going to get to the incredible part in a second, but he basically got his license within 2 weeks, jumped on board, and this is what is really amazing. Since then, Nick has closed an impressive average. This is his average of 103 homes per year for the last 3 years. He does not have a team. It is just him. 103 homes per year for the last 3 years, building a reputation as a top performer in the area. But what truly sets him apart is his dedication to not only growing his business, but also mentoring fellow agents. Nick is passionate about helping other realtors build long-term success, showing them how to not only make a living, but to set themselves and their families up for long-term wealth and financial security. Today, he's committed to sharing his knowledge and experience with others to help them reach their full potential in the real estate industry. I want everybody to follow Nick on his Instagram, which we will have a link to in the show notes, but it is Nick Harris_realtor. Nick, welcome. I will say welcome back to the show but it's technically your first time on Keeping It Real, but you were featured last month as well. So welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you and hopefully give some value to the listeners.
I really encourage everyone to go back a few episodes and listen to Nick's first appearance. Now, he wasn't a guest on the show in the traditional sense that he is today, but he was part of our very first ever webinar. And by the way, we have another one coming up. I don't know when this is going to release, but we have one coming up on February 25th. Hopefully this will be out by then. And for all of our listeners, we have a free promo code. If you go to keepingitrealwebinar.com and put in the promo code, podcast, all lowercase, put in the promo code podcast, makes it free. We have sponsors now, so you don't have to pay. And it reduces the price to zero, and you get to attend, again, keepingitrealwebinar.com, promo code podcast. But please go back and listen to Nick's appearance, because what he did was number one, it was incredibly courageous and vulnerable. Nick basically bared his business soul to in a live coaching session. Nick came on board with somebody from the locker room and Brent Scott, who is an amazing coach. And Brent walked Nick through his entire business, where Nick scored himself in various aspects. And, Nick is doing really, really well in his business. And it was a really cool thing, because even as you listen to Nick talk about his business, you will kind of go along with it, and you can score yourself and get benefit from that. So just go a few episodes back, look for the coaching session that we had with Nick Harris. And again, we're doing this again. We have another person we're coaching at this webinar, but we have three sessions that are going on this webinar. First is a top producer. We have Danielle Dowell, who's one of the top agents in Chicago. She's going to be talking about how she's doing that. We have another coaching session with a young agent here in Chicago, Melanie Miller, who's doing 3 transactions a month. She's crushing it. And we're going to talk about her business. And then we have Kim Ritberg to do another video session about how to do better in video this upcoming year. Again, keepingitrealwebinar.com. Use the promo code podcast to make it free. All right, Nick, let's get to you. Sorry about the big commercial there, but I was really excited to continue to do this. And thank you for being part of our first one. Nick reached out to me which was, I always love it when agents do that. And it was so kind, and he had a lot of nice things to say about our show. And we just love it when agents listen, and we really appreciate you. So now let's talk about how you got involved with real estate. So walk us through it. How did you make the switch?
Yeah. So, and again, I appreciate you having me on. I got interested in real estate, and you mentioned it in the bio, and thanks for that. But got interested in real estate from an investment standpoint. So, I can trace back to like 11th, 12th grade in high school, where I had an interest in real estate investing, knew I wanted to build some type of rental portfolio. And so it started with just self education. That was my first experience with real estate, all just self educating. Um, and then I went to college, played college baseball, got my degree in something completely different, like most people do, in health and exercise science. Out of college, became a strength conditioning coach. Then went on to be a personal trainer, and then COVID hit. And so obviously that industry kind of got thrown for a loop. And I took on a position as an account executive at United Wholesale Mortgage. So my first job in real estate, and in some degree, was for a mortgage lender, United Wholesale Mortgage, which is out of Michigan here. And so I was an account executive there. I worked on, it was business to business. So I wasn't having conversations with buyers and sellers. I was having conversations with loan officers and brokers, and loved it. But started to get this feel for the real estate agent side of things. And again, it wasn't something that I considered, again, just self-educating. And that's kind of when I picked up on different, YouTube University, but also podcasts, like Keeping It Real podcast, and started to listen to some things as far as not only real estate investing, but also becoming a potential agent. So when I was at UWM, or United Wholesale Mortgage, my little section got sent home because somebody had caught COVID. So we all got sent home, working from home. And I thought, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me now to actually have the time to study for my real estate license exam. So first week I was home, was sent home for 14 days. First week, studied for the exam. Second week, took it, passed it, went back to the office, was actually planning on giving my 2 weeks notice because I wanted to dive in as a real estate agent full-time head first. And when I went back, another loop, got a promotion. So stuck with it. I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do let's see what this offers for a little bit. And after about a month of doing it, I was still just sitting on my license, not actively doing anything, just waiting. And then made the decision, okay, I'm going to jump into real estate as a real estate agent full time. So that's kind of how like the ball got rolling as far as when I got licensed. And I got licensed back in June of 2021. So this upcoming June of 2025 will be the end of year 4.
So I want to skip to the end of your first year and then kind of work backwards. So how did you do in your first year?
Yeah. So first year, so again, I started in June. So I kind of look at it in 2 different phases, right? Because I had June all the way through December of 2021. And then you kind of kick through December to June again as like my first calendar year.
Sure.
So for my first calendar year, I believe the numbers, I believe I closed around 80 transactions in that first calendar year. And I forgot the volume of that, but our average price point in the Metro Detroit area is around like 350 to 400. But I was working with primarily a lot of investors to start. So it was lower price points. Again, it was something that I had a passion for. And at that time, I wasn't yet an investor. I didn't have a portfolio of my own, but knew the lingo, knew the conversation, knew the numbers, knew what people were looking for because I had been studying it on my own. And so that's kind of where I jumped in at first, because that was all I knew as a real estate agent. And my career has progressed to primarily working with primary home buyers and sellers where we sit today.
Yeah, let's talk about jumping into the investor space, which is not a common pathway for a new agent, right? There are usually, I'm sure a lot of our listeners would like to add in working with investors onto their client lists, but most agents I talk to do not start that way. They start out as you're doing now with primary home buyers and sellers. So when you were starting out, how were you able to let's talk about finding investors, because a lot of times people who don't work with investors might think, well, do I have to have an investor first before I can start, finding opportunities.
Yeah.
So walk us through the process of, what comes first? You find the deal and then you find the investor, or you find the investor first and then the deal?
Yeah. So the way that it worked for me specifically was I found the investor first and then found the deal, right? So I had been running numbers and looking at different things on my own, again, just in my own interest. But for me, it worked out where I found the investor or investors first and then found the deal for them. So for me, again, I came from health and exercise field and I was a personal trainer. I was a personal trainer at the Diamond Club. We have a chain gym here called Lifetime, and it was the Diamond Club, most expensive, one of the most expensive gyms in the area. So you're kind of around that clientele. And in a lot of that, just normal conversation with my clients that I was training, I noticed a trend of, upwards of 50, 60, 70% of them had real estate investment.
Hmm.
So it kind of started there, right? Because I transitioned out of the personal training and the health and exercise science field into working at a lender. Then I got my license, but I had those relationships still because I connected on a deeper level with those people. Remember that, hey, they had investment portfolios of their own, whether it was commercial or residential. And so that was a really easy conversation for me. I went right back into them. And so that was a small majority of where I went to the investor first. The rest of it for me was jumping into local REI, like real estate investing groups. So whether you can find something in your local market on, for me, it was Facebook groups. So searching different investor groups in whatever state you're in. For me, it's Michigan, and just ask to join those groups. They have local meetups. So kind of connecting with different people, and just having conversations. It really came from reaching out to people that I knew who had real estate investments from the investment side, but then also getting involved in some of the in some of the networks of the markets through, for me, Facebook groups in my local area, and going to some of those meetups and just having conversations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you basically found the investors through, your personal training. And this is brings up a good point for those of us that have part-time jobs. If your part-time job can feed your business, whatever it might be, maybe you're a server at a restaurant, or a bartender, or a teacher, or a nurse, or really any profession that you service the public. You have opportunities to say, oh, by the way, I also do this other thing. And so I really, that's was great way. So you found the investors. You already knew how to find the opportunities because, of course, you were looking for those yourself, as well as working on the mortgage side. You probably saw how deals got put together and what investors were looking for, and that's amazing. So that makes perfect sense. I also have interviewed a lot of agents who didn't start with the investor list. They found the deals first, and then what I've heard from many people is find the deal and the money comes a lot faster than you might think, because everybody wants a deal.
Yeah.
Anyone who's cash heavy is interested in parking that cash somewhere that has good tax benefits and a nice rate of return. So that's fantastic. I really love that. So now, a lot of times people who work with investors stay on that track, and that becomes their entire life, or the vast majority of their business. You've decided to branch out and work with primary home buyers and sellers, the retail folks. So tell us about, why did you decide to add that into your business, and how has that transition been going for you?
Yeah. So the switch initially happened. So going from focusing on investors to retail or primary home buyers and sellers happened. Number one, for the motive of, again, the investments in my market tend to be cash flow heavy. We're not, the Metro Detroit market is not a super high appreciation market. Now, of course, we have appreciation, but it's not a super high appreciation market. It's not.
Sure.
It's not your Airbnb or your short-term rental. It's more so your long-term rental properties. And so average price points lower, right? So what I found was the amount of work that I had to do to make the income that I wanted was doubled, if not tripled, because of the price point. So for me, it came from a want to service higher price points. And in addition to that, it gives you the ability to step back a little bit. Instead of closing, 100 transactions a year, you could do half for twice the purchase price or the sales price, and still have the same outcome as far as income as a real estate agent. So that was really, for me, that was the motivating factor of, and not only that, but also, like, I wasn't solely working with investors at the beginning, right? Like it was a good chunk of my business but I thoroughly enjoyed the process of helping someone, whether it was a first time home buyer or helping somebody to downsize or to scale up, or they had a need to move rather than just looking to make an investment. So I really started to enjoy that. And the same thing on the sales side. Like I loved helping people capitalize on the equity of their home and make as much as they could. We're all incentivized to do that, right? So that was what I really just started, my momentum started going that way. And that's what I took my focus to. And it's been going great. In the most sales I've had in a year, and the reason that, and I know you mentioned at the beginning, it's 103 transactions a year over the last 3 years. 3 years ago, it's slowly gone down, right? So 3 years ago, that was because it was 121 transactions. Then I went to 118, and then I made the sole focus of, okay, I want to work with primary buyers and sellers now. So I cut my transactions in almost half. I think this past year I closed 67, but the total sales volume went up north of 2 million on that. So half the
Wow.
deals were 2 million more in total volume.
That's a good exchange. That is so I was going to make a joke that you're slipping, but no, you're becoming way more efficient and effective. That is truly incredible. So you saw bigger opportunity maybe with or at least less hours with
Yeah.
bigger opportunity.
Yeah.
And boy, that makes perfect sense. And what a great thing to sort of recognize. But a different skill set, right? Like working with primary home buyers and sellers is a different. Tell us about what are the main differences between helping an investor secure a property and helping someone buying their primary residence.
Yeah. So, for investors, a lot of it comes down to the numbers, right? The numbers have to make sense. And based on their criteria, are they looking for a long term buy and hold? Are they looking for something that's going to be cash flow heavy? Are they looking for something that's going to be appreciation heavy? Because on the investment scale, you kind of can look at it on either end of the spectrum, right? It's either going to favor cash flow or it's going to favor appreciation. And it's hard to find that middle ground, right? So, as far as that's concerned, it's investors is more so about the numbers. Does it make sense financially? And does it make sense based on their criteria? For a primary home buyer and seller, obviously, let's talk buyer, because investors were buying, buyers are going to buy their next home. Of course, it has to fit the criteria that they have or the need that they want for their home. It has to have X amount of bedrooms or bathrooms or square footage or this school district, that school district. But a lot of it is emotional as well. So it's a different spin. And for us, we are in the sales industry. It's a different spin on helping someone come to a decision based on what they've told you. Take that information, and instead of it being about numbers, oftentimes the numbers are still involved. It still has to financially make sense for them, but it's also about that emotional process and what they are looking for and getting them into that home.
Did you find that the transition was an easy one for you, going from more of the, we'll say, left brain side, the logical, just get the numbers to make sense. I'm an investor. I don't have too much emotion other than how my financial part of it is doing, versus the homeowner who, of course, wants the financial security too, but also has a lot tied to, of course, where they live. Was that transition easy for you, or was it a different skill set to learn?
Not necessarily. It wasn't a huge skill set change. The same things still go into it. It's still a real estate transaction. Due diligence is still the same, and the conversation is still the same. For me, it was just a little bit more fun to have the conversations with primary home buyers and sellers and talk about that and what it means for them and their family. Same thing on the investment side. Like it still has a lasting, impression on them and their family, and they're doing that for a reason. But for me, it was more fun to do that with primary buyers and sellers.
You feel like you're making a different impact, and maybe one that's a more personalized impact, and one that maybe is more meaningful to the purchaser or seller. That's wonderful. So you found that that's what you enjoy doing the most, although I'm sure you still help investors as well. I'm sure that's not completely stopped, but making that transition is not very easy either, because those those two types of clients, those two client avatars, the investor and the primary, primary property owner or buyer, is they are looking for different things, and they're not congregating in the same spaces. So how did you start to find somebody looking to buy or sell a primary residence? And we understand how you found the investors, but how did you find the regular clients?
Yeah. So for me, I have a handful of lead pillars that I really dive in on. So number one is sphere of influence, or SOI. Just the people that I know, right? Rolodex of people, whether it's in your contacts, whether you knew them from middle school, high school, college, local gym, whatever, child's daycare, whatever the case may be, and then just people who know, like, and trust you. So number one is your sphere of influence, just staying in contact with them. And through that also is social media, right? It's a good medium to stay top of mind and have conversations and stay involved in people's lives. So I kind of group those two, although it's one A and one B. I kind of group that into one because that it's my sphere of influence, and it's the people that I'm regularly staying in contact with. So sphere of influence number two would be past clients and referrals. Obviously, having the ability to work with those type of people and get referrals from them, or have them repeat sales. Maybe they bought a home 4 years ago and they need to upsize and they need to downsize, right? So number two would be past clients and referrals. And then number three, where I get a majority of my business from, is actually outbound prospecting with circle prospecting or geographic farming, and neighborhood dialing. So that's been a huge one for me, because that's allowing me now to get in contact with actual homeowners, people who own a home, that are looking to sell, number one, or potentially looking to sell. But they also, if they sell, they need to move and buy somewhere, and whether it's local, and I can work with them on both of those. So it gives, it's the same client for two transactions, or they may be looking to move out of state. And so it's a good referral, passive approach to the real estate business as well.
I want to tackle all three of these. I've been taking notes because I don't want to miss any of this, because first of all, you know your numbers, which is amazing. And you also understand what's working for you and what isn't, and how to make refinements. So I want to start with sphere of influence, because that might seem the most obvious to our listeners. Of course, we should be staying in contact with the people that already know, like, and trust us. And you talked about using social media as part of the strategy for that. And I'm assuming also reaching out directly to those people, the one-to-one conversations, maybe, I don't know if you're texting or phone calls or email or all. But can you walk us through a little bit about how do you stay in touch with your sphere?
Yeah, so a couple of different, and again, I call them my game plans or my plays. Again, coming in from the athletic background, like, if I have a game plan in front of me, it's easy for me to implement. So I have a couple of things that I do on a regular basis during a normal work week. So Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday, I do what I call a social 333, and you can plug whatever number you want into that. Maybe do a social 444, 555, whatever it is. But for me, social media, I'm going to follow 3 new people a day. So that's the first three new follows, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever medium that you're on.
You following them.
Correct. Yep. So it could be mutual friends. It could be if you go to your local gym, or you go to a restaurant often, or you go to whatever it might be, your child's daycare, and they have a page. You might just see that, follow 3 of those people, and it now puts you in front of them. So this is again just building that database. So number one is 3 new follows or friend requests. Number two is 3 comments on a post, whether it's a reel or someone's post. And then the third category is 3 direct messages. So it's 3 follows, 3 comments, 3 direct messages. Again, just staying top of mind, staying relevant, nothing to do with real estate at all. It's just being involved in people's lives. Maybe they got married a week ago and you saw them post about it, so you're going to comment or send them a direct message. So social 333. And with my sphere of influence, I also run a play where Monday through Friday, I send out 5 video text messages or 5 text messages a day to my sphere of influence. And these are people that I'm already in contact with or have contact with. So what I do for me, I just go into my phone contacts, right? For other people, it might be their Facebook friends, or it might be their Instagram followers. For me, I just use my phone contacts, and I start from A to Z. And on Monday, I'll start at A, and maybe it's Aaron. Aaron is the first one. I'm going to send Aaron, depending on if I've had a conversation with Aaron in the past, or if maybe I haven't talked to Aaron in a year, right? I'm just going to send. The reason I like video text messages because it's more personal. People are generally more likely to open it when they can, and in a scenario where they can respond, rather than just read a text and never respond. And again, it's nothing real estate related. It's just checking in with people. Again, you might call out, you notice that Aaron went on a vacation last week to Florida, and you're just saying, hey, Aaron, it's been a while. I was just cleaning up my contacts, came across your name. I actually saw you went to Florida last week. It looked awesome. Hope you had good weather. Would love to catch up with you and hear more about what's going on in your life. I hope you're doing well, and let's catch up soon. right? So I send 5 of those a day.
Oh, 1 second. So, thank you. That is amazing stuff. So, you're using social media almost as a research and development arm of your company to see, hey, I'm going to call Aaron. I want to talk about something with Aaron. Let me look to see if he's posted anything to see maybe something I could talk about. If there's no posts, then you might just check in. Hey, how's it going? I wanted to check in, see how you're doing, how's work, but whatever. And are you doing that via if you're an iPhone user, are you using FaceTime? Are you using a third-party solution like BombBomb or Loom? How are you doing that?
Yeah, so for me, it's just my phone. So I use my iPhone and I send a video, right? And if it's you
Oh yeah,
have
I'm
the
sorry, not FaceTime. Yeah, just a video.
yeah,
Right, right.
if you have the discrepancy of sometimes the videos don't show up great to Androids and vice versa. So in those scenarios, maybe I just send a voice recording or I'll send an actual text message. But I try to send a video text message as often as I can.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just pick 5. And what I found is as I'm working through my contacts and sending 5 a day, Monday through Friday, it takes me, each video is maybe 10 seconds long. If you have something to really talk about, maybe you're at like 30 seconds. But I send 5 a day. And what I found is I get through my entire contact list about once a quarter. So now I'm doing that again, starting over A to Z, and I'm in contact with those people 4 times a year at a minimum.
So everyone gets 4 video messages from you. By the way, pro tip for anyone listening: if you are an iPhone user, I don't know how to do this the reverse way, but as an iPhone user, if you are sending messages and you are sending them to an Android user, it can and may degrade the quality because Apple has a closed system and that's just how they play. But what you can do is you can copy the iCloud link and send them the direct link, and they can view that directly in a web browser. So there is a way to get it to them, and it looks almost identical to if you were to send them. In other words, it shows up almost identically in their text chain as it would if you would have sent it directly to them. So for anyone out there who has got a lot of Android users in your sphere, in your contact list, consider that as a little pro tip. So I love that. So every one of your every one of your friends, really, everybody in your sphere gets 4 messages a day of, hey, just thinking about you, hope all is well, let's catch up. How often, and I don't think the reason to do this, or rather the expectation probably isn't, well, they're going to call me right back, I would assume most of them probably don't. But talk about, why do you do this?
Yeah. So again, again, like you mentioned, it's not always that you're going to get a response. It's not always going to be that you're. I mean, the ultimate goal, right, is to say, "Hey, Nick, thanks for reaching out. We're actually thinking about selling our house."
Sure,
Right?
of course.
That's almost too easy, right?
But that's up to the gods, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. So I mean, the hope out of it is that you at least put yourself in front of them, right? Even if they're not in a position to respond, even if they never respond, they heard from you. They might like the message, or at least they got it, right? And it's just to be a person, be relevant, right? Be a human being, have conversations, let them know you're thinking about them. Everybody likes to be thought of. And if you can bring up recent things in their lives, or you remember something that happened recently in their life and you can bring it up, or you bring up a memory of, 2 years ago, the last time you saw them, and you bring up a memory, like people like that stuff.
Of
So
course.
yeah, so it's huge. For me, it's just staying top of mind, being in front of people. And the same thing goes for social media, right? Not everyone likes your posts. Not everyone is commenting on your posts. But I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a wedding from a friend in college, and I haven't seen potentially the people that are at that wedding in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And someone will walk up to me, and one of the first things they say to me is, "It looks like you're killing it in real estate. Like, congratulations, how's everything going?" Right. And I had no idea, like, other than being friends with them on social media, they haven't shown any interest. But it's being top of mind. It's being there so that when someone thinks of real estate, it's, oh yeah, Nick's a real estate agent. I see he's doing really well. I should reach out to him.
Yeah. And I, again, just that, if everyone just did a video message to everyone in their sphere 4 times a year, you will see results from that. Now, you might not see them this year. You might not see them even next year, because people only buy and sell every 7 years or so for primary residence. So it might not happen right away, but people remember. First of all, let's all think about, does any service provider in our life, anyone, is it accountants, financial advisors, our dentist, our, person who cuts our hair? These are all service providers that, you can always go elsewhere. Our attorneys, things like that, our accountant. How many of those are sending you a video message? I'm going to guess 0. So just by doing this alone, you're not only differentiating yourself from most realtors, 99% of realtors don't do this, but 99% of the other people they pay for various services aren't doing this either. And you're not asking them for anything. You're not saying, I need a sale this month. I hope you're ready to buy or sell, which can come across in some of these messaging if you're not really showing authentic interest. So Nick is doing something very, very smart. And he's also an authentic person. He's doing this because he cares about people. And he's ultimately saying, how do I connect with you? I want to connect with you. I'm thinking about you. You're important to me. And I'll give you one other pro tip for those of you that are going, oh my gosh, sometimes I don't know what to say. Nick just gave a bunch of examples of what he might say. Use LinkedIn for this too. Don't forget about LinkedIn. LinkedIn will tell you whether somebody's got a job promotion or if they've celebrated a milestone at their job, how many years they've been there. Or you can also look up the company they work for and see on Google News. Maybe you should know the company they work for. If you do, see if there's anything cool going on in that company. Hey, I just saw an article on such and such, right? These are connectors. And Nick obviously does this really, really well. So cheers to you, Nick, for that. And now we want to talk about comments. So this is a pretty simple one. We're talking about social media comments on your 333. We're talking about, basically just commenting on people's posts, I'm guessing, saying, hey, that vacation looks awesome, or hey, that dinner looks great, or glad your kids did that recital, or is that sort of the type of...
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Again, it's being top of mind. But with social media, it also helps the algorithm, right? The more that DJ and I are in conversation, the more likely Instagram, if we're using Instagram as an example, if DJ and I are in conversation, I'm more likely now to see DJ's post and DJ's more likely to see my post. So when I do go to post anything that it might be, whether it's a video or if you are doing like just listed, just sold, there's something to be said for that because it is a top of mind relevancy thing. But now you're more likely to see it. And if you're in contact with 3 new people a day sending comments or direct messages, those people are more likely to see your information. And again, it's that human piece of just having conversation with people and commenting on what's going on in their life.
Yeah, I'll share with everyone just a quick strategy that I'm using in the recruiting arm, which I think you can transpose this over into the how do I get clients side. So I used to think of really clever ways to recruit realtors via email and have cute little funny sayings or something that would make people chuckle, or maybe sometimes I just say, hey, this is all the cool stuff we offer. You should look at us. If you're ever thinking about making a switch, give us a call. And I did that for 13 years, almost 14 years with very limited success, right? Because took me a long time to figure this out. And this is probably what we all know anyway. People don't really like to be sold, or at least not ever. There are people that do like to be sold, but they're in the vast minority, I think, of the public. The other, the vast majority of people want to be heard and seen and felt like, they're cared about. So how do you demonstrate that in a reach out? Well, Nick just gave you a whole bunch of reasons. Know what's going on in their life. Reach out to them, comment on their posts. Send them a video and ask them how their kids are doing, or how X in their business or their life is doing. But what I started doing for recruiting, and Nick, I want to get your impression of this, is now I send basically a 2-sentence email, even if it's somebody I've never talked to before, and usually I'll know something about them. So I'll say, hey, I noticed you're up 300% this year. Like, that's incredible in this market. Just curious, how are you doing that? I'd love to find out more about you. And I have got so many responses. I went from a 0.1 response. Now, these are cold emails. They don't know me. They're not in my sphere. I would get a 0.1 response. So very, very few. I'm getting a 0.5 response now, which doesn't sound like much. It's still half of 1%. But I can send out lots of these messages I can't really scale it very easily, but I can send these out very quickly. It shows that I know something about them, and it's asking them to engage. I might say like, wow, that's really amazing. How did you do that? It's kind of what we do on the show, right? So I'm curious if Nick, if you receive, because you get recruited, you're a big producer in Detroit. What kind of recruiting messages do you get, just out of curiosity?
Yeah. I mean, I actually haven't really seen that. It's usually the a couple paragraphs long of here's
what we offer.
Yeah, and it's the catchy subject line that you get every single time. So it's a pretty quick see and delete situation. But yeah, I mean, I really like that. I think that's good. Everybody, everybody wants to talk about themselves and what they're doing and what's
Sure.
working. Everybody's pretty quick to do that, right? So it gives people the opportunity to talk about themselves, and who knows how long who knows how long ago they were able to do that. But people do like to speak on themselves and what they're doing and what's going on in their life. So give them an opportunity to do it.
And by the way, I want to mention how Nick got in contact with us. He reached out. He is doing exactly what he did to us, is exactly what he does with his clients, which is he reached out. He said, "Hey, I really like your show. I've been a listener for a long time. I've listened to, it was like over 200 episodes, which I haven't even listened to 200 episodes of my own show, but I appreciate that you did. And you said it's really made an impact on me. And I'd like to tell you about what impact it's made." He sent this to me in an Instagram direct message. And it's not like I don't get those every single day of the year. I probably get one or two of those a week at best. And we have lots of listeners. We're averaging 12,000 downloads a day. So there's lots of people listening. But Nick went out of his way to say, here's what your show means to me. And I really appreciate you doing what you do. And he didn't say, I want to be a guest. How do you have me on? He just said, hey, this means a lot to me. Thank you. And I was like, oh, I definitely want to have this guy on. And, because number one, he's super flattering and, a turn of phrase can always catch my eye. But also, he told me about the reason I do this show is to make an impact, to help people. And I'm just asking the questions. So it's really our guests like Nick that are actually doing the heavy lifting. But I'm glad that it has an impact. And I'm grateful to Nick for saying, hey, thank you for doing this, because getting a thank you is always appreciated. And it just so happened, you would talk about fortuitous timing. Nick did that at that exact moment in we were planning our first webinar. And I said, I need somebody to be coached. And I go, oh, this is the guy. I mean, it was like 10 minutes before, I was like, I got to get somebody to be coached. I have all these listeners. I'm going to have to do an announcement and say, oh, who wants to be coached? And everyone's going to, and then I'm going to have to filter through it. And then this bam hit my inbox out of nowhere. And things like that happen. And then a week later, 2 weeks later, Nick was on the show and now he's being interviewed. So things like these things do have impact, and again, Nick's doing us a favor. So this isn't really helping Nick as a business owner, but it's helping me and my podcast. And I'm grateful that it helps him as well. So just wanted to share that story because those things happen, reach out and stay in touch with the people that means something to you. Okay, so then let's talk about direct messages. So we're now back to, you're sending videos, you're following 3 people a day, you're commenting on their on posts, and what do you send in a direct message?
Yeah, so I think number one, the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to sending a message is Facebook, because Facebook every single day gives you a list of whose birthday is it, right? Whoever's birthday is today, and if you have north of 500 friends that you're following or that you're friends with on Facebook, I can guarantee it's at least someone's birthday today, right? So that's kind of lowest hanging fruit. And what I do there, again, it's the personalized message, right? So rather than just posting on their wall, like potentially hundreds of people are going to do, send them a direct message or send them a text message. But in terms of social media platforms, send them the direct message and whatever personal spin you want to put on it. That's a good one to do. And then very similar, like if it's not a birthday, again, it could be, let's say you've made it through your 3 comments and you're looking for another reason to reach out to someone else. So it could be a story, or it could be a feed post that they posted on. And again, they went on vacation, or they just got married, or they just had a baby, or their kid just, scored the winning goal in their soccer game, or whatever it might be. It's a reason to reach out and again, just send a personal message. And again, it helps the algorithm. So you're just staying on top of mind and being in front of people.
Love it. Now I want to quickly just ask about your content that you post that is, on social media. So how often are you doing it, and what types of content are you posting? Because we talked about how you're interacting with followers and friends, but what are you actually posting, if anything?
Yeah. So I utilize 2 platforms regularly: Facebook and Instagram. Those are kind of my 2. Those are where I'm at. I really like Instagram. I just like the platform of it, but also it's easy for me to use, and that's where I have most of my interaction. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to put up anywhere from 3 to 5 stories a day, and those are just days in the life, right? That's if I'm on a showing or if I'm on a listing appointment. I just sign if I have a listing coming soon, or you're at a showing and you see something funny, like use that opportunity to post and put it on a story. I use my feed. I'm usually posting at least once, if not twice a day on my feed on Instagram and on Facebook. I do utilize just listed, just sold, right? And for nothing else but to stay top of mind, to let people know, hey, I'm doing business. And again, it goes back to that scenario where, I'm at a wedding, haven't talked to somebody in 10 years, and we've been friends on Facebook, and all of a sudden, hey, Nick, it looks like you're doing great with real estate, right? Those people are going to see it, right? So, but I also try to do more value add post as well. So, I do a lot for I have been starting to post more for the agent community, like best tips and tricks and what I'm doing that's working. And so I'm doing a lot of that, like reels on Instagram, where that has become a big piece of my real estate content, or my Instagram content is actually geared towards real estate agents and helping them. So, again, for a real estate agent, it's just top of mind, post what you're doing. Do the things you're doing. If you're brand new, one of the things that I started with, anytime you're going to a showing, or even if you don't have a showing scheduled, right? Like for the brand new real estate agent, and I say this all the time, the brand new real estate agent doesn't have any clients. You're going out and you're probably practicing getting into houses by opening up lock boxes and just going to see homes and doing some self-teaching of like, okay, how would I orchestrate this showing, or, whatever it might be. Use those opportunities, pull out your phone and videotape yourself opening the door, or, walking through the home and it's a really nice kitchen, or it's a really nice bathroom, or you see something funny or something, even something that's a little bit ugly, right? I mean, post about it. It shows people that you're in the industry. It shows people that you're active, that you're doing things. One of the biggest things that I see most people that fall short on is they're posting things outside of the industry, other than their personal life and family, right? So for instance, like, if for me, it's you're working out in the morning, and I can't tell whether your target audience is someone that you're trying to become a personal trainer for, because you're recording all of your workouts and putting them online, or are you trying to push your content out to let people know that, hey, I'm a real estate agent? Like, be really clear on what your message is and what you want to be known for. And along those lines, I mean, for my personal page on Facebook and Instagram, I do tend to be about 60 to 70% business and 30 to 40% personal. I do like a mix of both, but I definitely want that business opportunity to let people know that, hey, this is what I'm doing.
So on your business page, when it comes to video, you're probably not posting, hey, just finished a tough workout. That would go more on your personal page?
So I just have one page. So my personal is my business, and my business.
Got it. So got it. So the vast majority of your content is going to be business. You said about a 70-30 split. Yep. And then you're also posting, here's day in the life. Here's what else I do outside of that. And if we really think about this strategy, so let's think about what Nick's doing from a much larger, and by the way, I want to actually, before I get to that, I want to talk about Nick mentioning something, and we just quickly breezed past it. I want to back up. He's posting content for other realtors. Now let's think about why Nick might be doing that, or what's the benefit other than Nick being a wonderful guy and giving away some value to the audience. Yes. What might come his way as a result? Well, a person who's doing 103 deals a year probably needs some help at some point. He is going to hit his maximum number of hours, and he is going to need a team, maybe, or he's going to say, nope, I'm just going to stay myself. But having options is a good thing. And so Nick is showing the community, here's what I do. I can show you how to do this, or here's some free tips. And guess what people are going to do with Nick? They're going to reach out and say, I want to talk to you. I want to join forces with you. And Nick also works for a company that has this really cool referral system where you can have people kind of working with you. And so this is a very, very wise strategy for anybody who's looking to build their team, attract more agents. I should be doing this for our recruiting agents. So that is a really, really smart strategy. And also, at the very least, even if it never attracts another agent, you're helping people, which is incredible, right? So Nick's doing all of those things. And yeah, so incredible stuff there.
I would say one more thing. One benefit of that too is it gets you recognized by other agents in your market, right? So
they feel like they know you.
Exactly. And if they see that, hey, this is someone who is well educated, well knowledgeable, closing a lot of deals. Guess what? When your offer shows up in their inbox, you have some form of familiarity, whether they've worked with you or not. And I mean, in this day and age, everybody, I mean, if we're going out to a restaurant, right? If we're going to go to a restaurant, the first thing that most people do, it's not asking a friend, it's going to reviews and it's going to their social media page to see what does the menu look like, what does the atmosphere feel like. So I mean, even in that, right? I mean, it forms the educational background of saying, okay, Nick's offer just ended up in my inbox. He's working with a client. Like, is this someone? Because listing agents, as you should, you're doing your due diligence on not only the buyer but also the agent to make sure the deal gets closed, and so it helps with that as well.
I love that. So you're really hitting, gosh, all sides from a marketing perspective. I that's my background, and I'm beyond impressed with this. I want to talk about now. Let's move over to your past clients, your repeat business. So we're moving away from sort of the finding, attracting new business. Well, we're still talking about that, but what are we doing to maintain and deepen the relationships of those that we've worked with before?
Yeah. So with past clients, I mean, your past client campaign, if you will, your past client campaign is super important. Whether that's organized through your CRM, I use Follow Up Boss. So whether it's organized through that and you're giving tags to know when to reach out, whether it's the video text messages, because those past clients become my sphere of influence and they're in my contacts. So I'm talking to them at least 4 times a year. What I also recommend for past clients, I do something that's very, very simple. At the beginning of the year, and if you haven't yet, do it now. I would print off a 1-page sheet of paper that shows all 12 months. And the goal is to have something in every single month, a reason to reach out. So whether you're doing client events. So for me, I do 3 client events for my past clients, my closed clients who are my clients. I don't necessarily love calling them past clients because they're still your clients.
Sure.
So 3 client events a year, winter, fall, and then a summer. And then some additional touch points, like maybe you do, this is one that I capitalize on, is my team runs what we call a CMA week, and we make it fun within our team. It's a competitive atmosphere, and there's rewards or prizes for the team that wins or the individual that wins. But 3 times a year, I'm going to reach out to all of my past clients or people within my sphere of influence and tell them the benefit of, most people are always interested in the value of their home, right? And most people go to different sites, and like everyone wants to know what is their equity stake in their home.
Of course. I just got my Zillow report today. And by the way, whether we agree or disagree that Zillow's accurate, I jump on that email, even though I'd hope I could at least do as good of a job running a CMA on myself. I don't run a CMA on myself, but guess what? Zillow does every month for me. And I got that email and I jumped. It was actually down 0.1%. And I actually got a little upset. But obviously, that's kind of, I'm not selling. It's kind of a silly thing. I shouldn't really be paying attention. It's like looking at your weight every single day. It's probably not a great idea because if weights fluctuate like home prices month to month or day to day. But everybody wants to know. So I love that you do that.
Yeah. So CMA week, right? And another benefit of that is if you have somebody who purchased a home and did not put 20% down, they have private mortgage insurance, right? And so if they purchased a home 2 years ago, but they might have a position now to where they have enough equity to save them that $100 a month or whatever their private mortgage insurance is, now you're actually giving them something of value. It's not just a home value estimate. You're also saying, hey, this could be something you could take to your lender and waive your PMI, and it could save you $100, $200 a month, right? So I do 3 client events. I do 3 CMA weeks, and my team does 3 CMA weeks. So that covers half of the year. That's 6 touch points. I also do 3 what I call beyond real estate weeks. So I pick 3 different months, and it's something not real estate related, right? It's for me around Thanksgiving and around the Christmas time. Around Christmas time, I'll do a pie drop off, or I'll have people come and pick up pies. So just something, again, personal, doesn't have to do with real estate. Just, hey, thank you. Wanted to give this to you and your family. And again, figure out what that is for you, something beyond real estate. So that takes up 9 of the 12. And then the other 3, what I personally do in Michigan, our weather is very seasonal. So, I generally send out 3 times a year in preparation of the winter, in preparation of the summer, and then going back into the winter, I'll send, so going into the winter. So like sometime in the fall, and then in the spring heading into the summer, and then the spring heading into the fall heading into the winter. I send out a checklist of different things. It might just be as simple as make sure you're changing your furnace filters, or make sure that you're changing your smoke detector batteries. For us, again, there's things where in the winters, if you're going to go on vacation for a week and we're expecting, freezing weather, you do not want to have your temperature set lower than about 65 degrees in your home, or your pipes could freeze. So it's just little things like that where, home maintenance tips and tricks, and here's what to expect. And again, it's just giving something of value, but also being relevant and staying top of mind.
So each month, and thank you for that tip. Each month you have some sort of touch point. You mentioned it could be the 4 video calls. It could be the client appreciation events. It could be the seasonal, hey, get ready for this season. It could be the non real estate related things that you're doing. And but what I didn't hear is newsletter. Are you an email newsletter guy?
I am not. I am not.
Interesting. So you're the first person I've talked to that is not. Now, why are you not doing an email newsletter?
So for me personally, it becomes one of those things where, number one, it can become repetitive, and we're kind of fluffing it up. And so for me, I want to give tactful outreaches with actual value. And I want it to be personal, not something that they feel like is being spread out throughout 200 different people, right? So for me, I mean, it's just a personal preference. It's something that I haven't done for that reason, and that's really the only reason why.
I wrote an article for a real estate magazine once, and the title will tell you my opinion, which was nobody wants to read your real estate newsletter. So that was my opinion. But regardless of whether people want to read a real estate newsletter or not, by the way, I get about 100 of these from agents, which I've never signed up for. By the way, I've never once signed up for a real estate newsletter. And these are not my past realtors that helped me buy and sell properties. These are just other realtors who are like, hey, he's on my contact list. He's getting my newsletter. And, it's fine. It's nice. It's whatever. I've never read one of them, not one. And maybe I'm different. Maybe your clients, everybody's clients love to read that. I don't know. But certainly I don't read them. And again, it's also what everyone else is already doing. So you don't need to send out a real estate newsletter. The person sitting next to you probably is. But I love that you're not doing that, because that is a very common strategy that agents do. And then they think, well, I'm touching my clients once a month with this newsletter. And yeah, technically you are, but maybe there's a way that you could do that more effectively and more, like you said, more more strategically, right? You're really thinking about, how do I actually provide value, not just play. And by the way, again, this goes back to my recruiting. I used to just say, here's all the cool stuff I'm up to. Here's all the cool stuff our firm's doing. And nobody really cared that much, as much as I thought it was cool. And I went, oh yeah, because every firm says that. Every firm says they're the greatest support, technology, and training. Everybody says it. Yeah. So it's not all that differentiated. It's more about getting some personalized attention. Okay. Now I want to switch to, so by the way, that takes care of your repeat clients, because again, repeat clients or ongoing clients is really the phrase. You are touching them in some way and in different ways every single month. And so they're getting a lot of contact with you and your business, but in really fun and engaging ways. So I love that. And now let's get into circle prospecting. For those of us that don't know what circle prospecting is, could you explain that?
Yeah. So circle prospecting, the way that I kind of capitalize on it, and the way that I kind of explain it, is that it's outbound prospecting. And I use it around a couple of different scenarios, but it's pulling local homeowners' contact information. You have their address, you have their phone number. Sometimes, some platforms offer the email as well. I like the cold outreach of a phone call. And so you're getting in contact with homeowners and giving them a call based on, a handful of different reasons. So what I do is I have a couple of different strategies that I use, or reasons to call. So number one, and one that a lot of people don't think about, is around buyers. Number one is, if you have a buyer who is looking in a specific neighborhood, it's a really good reason to call. It's more of like a geographic farming. You call around for your buyer in a specific neighborhood or within a specific school district. And it's having conversations with those homeowners saying, I have an active buyer looking to move into a home within the next couple of months. Curious if you've had any thought of potentially making a move or selling your home, if you got a price that made sense, even if it was off market, right? I love that piece of it, because a lot of people, the guard kind of comes down. It's like, well, I don't want to get my home ready. I don't want to have a ton of people come into the home. And what happens if someone steals something? And, all of the things that happen with that. So buyers that are looking in specific areas. The other reason I use it around my buyers is, let's say they put in an offer on a home and maybe the offer didn't get accepted. Well, I now know that neighborhood is something that they're looking for. So why wouldn't I capitalize on that opportunity to call those local homeowners in the neighborhood and say, hey, my buyer just made an offer on a home that was for sale in your neighborhood. Unfortunately, we got beat out. I'm curious if you happen to have, again, same conversation. I'm curious if you happen to have any thought of selling, if you got a price that made sense. I'm working with someone actively making offers and looking to move into the area. The other time that I use it for my buyers is if I have gone under contract, or closed on a home because it's a really good opportunity. And same thing can be said if you're on a team or you're in an office and someone had a buyer go under contract in an area that you would want to work or service, might as well use that as an opportunity as well to pick up potential listings. So that's the buyer side of things. Circle prospecting for sellers, I use it on multiple occasions, but when I have a home that I'm going to be putting on the market, I usually call at 4 different times: when we're in coming soon status, or the week before going live, the week or the day we go live, that week we go live, the week we go pending, and the week that it actually closes and is sold. Every call is a little bit different, right? The first 2 calls in coming soon and active, I'm looking for a buyer, but I'm also getting my name out there to the local neighbors to say, hey, I'm a real estate agent actively listing a home in your neighborhood. I want them to know that Nick Harris is getting ready to list a home in their neighborhood. So that's where that piece of it comes in. It's the coming soon and the active. And then once we go pending and once we sell, I now have actual information to give to them. I can tell them, hey, we listed at X price and we had this many showings, we got this many offers, and it ended up going under contract at X price, right? You have actual information and market data to present to them. And in a great scenario, right, where let's say you did end up getting multiple offers, you have 5 offers, you can only take 1. So that means there's 4 buyers that are still out there. And if you can go to a homeowner and say, hey, we ended up getting 5 offers, so there's still 4 buyers that are actively looking in this neighborhood. I'm just curious if you happen to have any thought of making a move or selling your home, if you got a price that makes sense.
I'm pausing because my jaw is dropping. So I've done this for 7 years. I've never heard of anybody doing this. So we are talking about, you are contacting, these are cold calls. These are the coldest of cold calls. These are people that do not know you, do not know whether they even like or trust you. You are saying, hey, first of all, I'm listing a home in this area. Hey, by the way, just went pending as the second call. Third and the fourth would be, hey, here's what just happened. And we had a lot of showings, we had a lot of offers, and I was curious, and here's what happened. Would you be curious in participating in this in some way? That is unbelievable. That is amazing. What are the responses when you make these calls?
Yeah, so you're going to get a mix of everything, right? I mean, you can kind of go on both ends of the spectrum. You're going to have the person that says, yes, I've actually been thinking about it, we'd love to have you over today. And then you're going to have the people who can't hang up on you fast enough, right? So, and then anything in between, it's all about having those tactful conversations. And these are the conversations that I have with the agents that I help coach and mentor, if you will, and that reach out to me. And these are the conversations that I have with them about how to best script and put into words to keep a conversation going, right? Because if they're not quick to get you off the phone, they have some interest at some level, right? There's some interest, even if it's just knowing the value of their home. So how can you continue that conversation to again, be top of mind when they do think about it, but also get in front of them, whether it's a home estimate or just to give them data, even if it's just to get their email. Now they're in your database. You have a name, right. You have a number, you have an address, and you have an email. Now they're in your database. And next time a home sells, you're sending them an update of, hey, another home just sold in your neighborhood. Here's what it sold for, right? So, you have a wide variety of different conversations that can take place anywhere on that spectrum. It's either, hey, come, ready to go, come list me. It could be a get off the phone, never call me again, or it could be anything in the middle where you're just trying to pull out as much information as you can.
And it might be leaving voicemails that never get returned.
Exactly.
That probably happens too. And again, Nick's not trying to make a sale. He is presenting something that may be of interest to the person he's calling, right? He's not selling anything. He's not saying, hey, I want to list your property. Everybody wants to list everybody's property, of course. He's saying, hey, this is a thing that happened that's relevant to you. And by the way, we know every neighbor's nosy. You talk about open houses. I forgot that was one of the calls. So open house, that was, did I get that right?
Yeah. So like if you're in coming soon status or getting ready to go live and you're planning on having an open house, the opening weekend or the second weekend, it's a good opportunity to invite those neighbors to the open house. And now they get to experience what it is that you do at an open house as well.
And to get to see what the inside of their neighbor's home looks like, which is also something they're very interested in.
That's most often what people are interested in.
Of course. And it gives you an opportunity to get them signed in, and now you have their email address.
Exactly.
I mean, Nick, I have to say I'm absolutely floored by the tightness of this and your willingness to do very difficult things. It is not a lot of fun to pick up the phone and call somebody who's a homeowner who really doesn't want the phone call, and then be able to, have a nice conversation. Yes, it happens, and that's great. And you also get a lot of hangups, probably some unkind messages as well, unkind interactions, and it's still worth doing. It's kind of like doing push-ups in the gym, and until you collapse, which by the way, or rather, I'll give a different one. If anyone wants to see a really brutal exercise, there's a lot of them. Look up eccentric pull-ups, which I was doing yesterday. Those are no fun. And those times where you pull yourself up one and then slowly go down 7 seconds. That's the way we do it. And it's not like I can do a dozen push-ups. I can't, or pull-ups. I could do about 7 at my best. And those are critical because they really help build the muscle faster, and they're no fun at all, and they hurt, and you want to cry afterwards. So, but that's why they're worth doing. So I always think, life is about, in my opinion, or rather the most fulfillment, I think, in life comes from doing really hard things that are good for you, and calling everybody in a neighborhood to let them know about this property is good for them, and it's good for you. So it's actually a win-win. Even if they tell you to buzz off, okay, great, moving on to the next house.
Yeah.
That is unbelievably. I cannot
like
tell you.
Like I said, so I mean, the benefit of that arm of my business and that pillar of building leads is that you're not only working with sellers, number one, because they actively own the home, but it's also potential for 2 deals, right? Because they need to go and buy a new home. They may have the off chance where they're going to live with family or they're going to rent, but more often than not, I would say from my experience, over 50% of the time, they're either looking to move somewhere locally, whether it's downsize or upsize, or they're looking to move out of state. And so it's a referral for you as well.
Yeah, it's a no brainer. But it requires doing those pull-ups that are no fun. But it doesn't need to be fun. It just needs to be effective, and it needs to be good for the other person. And these kind of I live in a condo building. We only have 45 units. We don't have hundreds and hundreds of units. So when somebody wants to live in our building, there's limited inventory. There's usually only one place for sale at best at any given time. Nobody has ever called me and said, and by the way, we have tiers. So like if I'm, my particular unit, it's the same of, 7 other tiers. And I've never gotten one phone call, never got one postcard, never received one letter saying, hey, I just sold so-and-so's place. We got a lot of people interested. Would you be interested in having a conversation? Because I would love to connect you with these buyers. Not one. And I don't think it's because everyone knows I'm an agent, because I don't even practice real estate. So you could definitely prospect me. Amazing. So I'm sure if Nick was here in Chicago, and he sold something in my building, I would get a call from him. So that's incredible. So we're talking about neighborhood dialing. Again, you're willing to do a lot of things that, and I suspect this comes back to your excellence in sports. You were a college athlete, and in order to rise to that level, you just had to work a lot harder than most people, right? You had to put in the time that most weren't willing to do that. As a personal trainer, you have to keep your body in incredible shape, also to be an athlete too. I imagine that discipline really serves you in your business now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's played a huge role. And again, it's for me, it's having, similar to that athletic background, it's having a game plan in motion, and then it's just acting on it, right? A lot of people just don't know what to do, or what their daily schedule should look like. And my calendar is filled out for I have something blocked off every moment of my working day where I have a task that I'm going to be doing, from the moment I start to the moment I'm done. And then when I'm done, I'm clocked out. I'm with my family. I'm with my daughter, and my wife, and that's that. But everything that I do again, it's just knowing what to do and then actually implementing it. I think the knowing what to do is the easy part, whether it's talking to different people or finding a mentor or even just reaching out to me, like helping with those things, is the actual implementation and putting it into your calendar that a lot of people they can't do.
Yeah. We're talking about, intentionally creating the day that you think is most effective for you. and instead of being reactionary, right? We all have things flying at us, emails, client phone calls, problems. Every transaction has a problem at some point. So you're going to have plenty to do today, whether you planned your day or not. But what at what cost, right? Does it come at the cost of time with your daughter or your wife, right? If you don't have time planned to handle not only what's coming in but also how to keep the business running, meaning how am I growing my business every single day, not just reacting to my business, you're going to be not only less efficient, but you're going to have a lot more stress in your life. You're going to be waiting for things to happen. Nick doesn't wait for things to happen. He just does the things that he knows are going to ultimately get him results, and he makes modifications along the way. I'm sure there's been things you've tried that you're like, that just doesn't work for me, and I'm going to try something else. Has that happened where you've tried various things? I always think people who are the most successful fail the most, and the failures don't get really talked about. But can you share with us one of your failures, just so that everybody can feel like you're a human being and
Yeah.
you have issues just like everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's things that I've tried that just haven't worked. I can't necessarily think of anything off the top of my head, but there's absolutely things that I've tried and just don't end up working. I think
Yeah.
where actually most people fall short is not doing things long enough, not giving it enough time to actually produce fruit. Right. I mean, it's everybody. You can hear like stick to a couple of different things. It's the same thing with social media. Like master one. Don't try to be on all platforms doing everything. Stick with one. Do it really well, and then maybe once you've mastered it, you can move into a second form. But anything worth doing today needs to be worth doing for a decade. And it's about sticking to it long enough to actually see the fruit of it. Most people are, and this is real estate is very cyclical, right? I mean, the client that you're working with today, and even the contract that you signed today, if you're working with a buyer, that's not closing in most cases throughout the US, that's not closing for a month, if not 2 months from now. So even the work that you're putting in today doesn't bear fruit for at least another month or two. And the same thing can go with generating leads, prospecting, and whatever you're doing, working on your business and in your business. It's not going to have, it's not going to have a payout today. Do it long enough to give it time. And so generally my recommendation is if you can stick with something for about 6 months, do it for 6 months. If you're absolutely seeing nothing from that, then you have two options. It's either the platform or whatever you're doing is not working, or you need to change the way you're doing it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going through a version of this myself. So I created this new marketing campaign. I'm doing videos to recruit agents. I talked about how I'm changing up my emails, and we have now seen a 74.5% increase in traffic to our recruiting website, which is amazing. Except I'm not seeing a lot of conversions into people who are really interested in reaching out. So now I have to go, okay, I know how to drive traffic to the website through the content I create. Now I need to figure out which, when people build things too, they get really emotionally invested in them, whether it's, an ad you put out, whether it's a brochure, whether it's a technique you try, you get emotionally connected to it. And I get emotionally connected to the website I built because it's beautiful. I think it works perfectly. It's just the best looking, recruiting realtor website that I've ever seen. And I'm very proud of it. Yet it's not converting. So I have to now eat a little bit of humble pie and go, okay, now I need to figure out how to get people to take action. And even though aesthetically, I think it looks perfect, there's something I'm missing. There's something it's not quite hitting. And now I have to figure that out. But the reality of it is I also have to keep driving traffic there. So we're talking about refinement, and Nick is really an unbelievable refiner. He knows all of his numbers. When you go back and listen to his coaching session, you will find out he knows exactly what converts. He knows how much time to put in. And as a result of all of it, knowing his numbers, we talk about knowing your numbers in the market, but knowing your numbers in your business really helps you figure out how to plan your day. I mean, that tells you, okay, I have to put certain amount of money in, a certain amount of time in this bucket, and this bucket. Well, I only have, X number of hours in the day. Nick figures that out ahead of time, and then he just sticks to his buckets, sticks to his time blocking. From an accountability perspective, we didn't talk about that. I just wanted to maybe end with this. Do you have an accountability partner? Do you have a coach? How are you staying? Because, obviously you're a super self-disciplined guy. I'm sure accountability, you had a coach as an athlete. What is your sort of process around getting coached?
Yeah, so I do have a coach within my organization and within my team, and one of the nice things about the organization that I'm with, again, that coach is financially incentivized for me to do well, and the better I
Sure.
do, the better he does, right?
Yeah.
Um, but in addition to that, it's I do have a coach, and I do have the ability through that, and it's something that that I take very seriously, and having some type of mentor or some type of coach to help not only give you direction but also track metrics, see what's working, what's not, give different alternatives, and actually see what it is that you're doing, being held accountable to someone, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a friend, whatever the case may be, someone who's ideally someone who's in a position that you want to be in is where we should be looking, and who's done what you want to do. That's where we should be looking. And so I highly recommend it. But yes, I do have a coach and someone who keeps me accountable to that.
And for no other reason than I find that we will let ourselves off the hook before we will disappoint someone else, right? We will watch that extra hour of TV because we had a hard day. But if we had an appointment set with somebody, I bet we'd make it.
Mhm.
I know I would. So for no other reason than getting yourself to do things. This is embarrassing. I'll share this with people. Is like I have a challenge waking up at the time that I want to wake up. I don't hit the snooze, but I just don't wake up. I wake up and then I go back to bed. And I've had this problem for forever, and I could beat myself up about it, or I could find a solution. And I finally found a solution, and I have somebody who is basically my assistant. She lives in a different part of the world, so she's at a different time than we are here. And it just so happens that the time I want to wake up is a really easy time for her to call me on WhatsApp and say it's time to wake up. Now, I'm not proud that I need to have somebody to help me wake up. It's a little embarrassing. I have a little judgment about that, but I don't care because it works. Because I
Mhm.
will never let that phone ring for more than two rings. Because I am not going to have somebody halfway across the world calling me and just me not paying attention. That is even more embarrassing to me. That's humiliating. And it's not respectful of her time. It's not. So I'll disrespect my own time all day long. I'm not going to disrespect someone else's. So if you struggle with procrastination or letting yourself off the hook, well, you're human. That makes you normal. Now find solutions for that. Get someone else, even if it's you got to have your spouse wake you up at 5 a.m. or whatever time. You know what? Doesn't matter. Everyone's human. So just a little insight into my life where people go, wow, you do so many things, you must you really have it all figured out. I'm like, not really. I just have systems. It's same with you. You
Yeah.
have systems. You know what you're doing every day. So anyway, my head is spinning from all of the great stuff that Nick mentioned. I want to open this up to our audience to let them know that Nick is excited to connect with you as well. So Nick provides content for agents. He's also, just leading by example. You could just see what he's doing on social media, and you could, obviously see some of the great stuff he's doing and apply it to your own business. Nick, uh, aside from Instagram, which everyone should follow Nick at Nick Harris _ realtor. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Nick, if anyone wants to shoot you an email or give you a call, what's the best way they should do that?
Yeah, I would definitely say reach out to me. I'll give my direct cell phone. Happy to talk with anyone who has to have or wants to have a conversation. Cell phone is 248-875-2299. Again, that's my direct cell. Send me a text, give me a call, let me know who it is, and let's chat.
Yeah, and by the way, Nick has so many great ideas. I'm thinking about I'm thinking about asking him to consider maybe coming on more regularly. So if this was impactful for you, and boy, if it wasn't, I'd have it all wrong, because to me this was about one of the most impactful episodes we've ever done. So thank you, Nick, on behalf of the audience. I'm going to get incredible feedback from this, and if you want to see more of Nick on this show, tell Nick. so that when I call, he can go, I'm getting all these messages from people. But anyway, this was really helpful. And regardless of whether Nick ever makes it on the show, he's a busy guy. If he ever can make it on or not, this was incredible value. Please tell a friend about this episode. This is the episode to push to someone else. Let them know here is a guy who has a really great strategy for not only retaining his existing clients, getting more business from them, and also attracting new agents every single day and doing some pretty unconventional things. So definitely shoot this episode out. We want to spread the word about what Nick's doing, and he's just incredible. So on behalf of all of our audience, we thank Nick. On behalf of Nick and myself, we also thank the audience. We appreciate you. Please leave us a review. Let us know what you thought of this episode. You can leave us a review in iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to podcasts. Let us know what you think of the show. It means a lot to us, and it helps us get in front of more viewers. Please check out our sponsors as well. They pay the freight. They're the reason we can do these shows, and we love them as well. And they have great products and services for you. Trust me, we are very, very particular about who we bring on as sponsors. So please check them out. And let's check out Nick. Follow him on Instagram. Once again, that is Nick Harris _realtor at Instagram. And he gave his email and phone so you can reach out to him that way. Nick, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode.